Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome wherever you are in the world. This is USA Global TV and Radio. We proudly provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and I am hosting this show today. And our show is A Woman's Prerogative. We are live streaming across all of our destinations, and we welcome our friends who've been with us from the beginning and our new followers, as well as our wonderful viewers who are over on E360 TV and our friends listening on the podcast platforms. Our show, A Woman's Prerogative, today we're going to be talking about groundbreaking TV shows highlighting women's achievements. Yay! And before I bring out the star of our show, I just want to make a couple of quick announcements. We have a brand new show that just started on Saturday, Food and Femininity, with Maggie, the substitute teacher. Maggie has a huge following of her own on all of her platforms. She live streams every single day, so check her out here at USA Global TV and Radio. And also to Julianne Mejia, who is the show host of The Holistic Alternative, exploring natural wellness solutions. You can watch her show here today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, without further ado, the star of our show is Caroline.heward. She is known as the Harley Street stress expert. All of you out there who are freaking out about what's going on in the world, you don't have to freak out anymore, because you can learn tips and tricks and skills of how to be in a more peaceful and mindful place. How can you do that? By contacting Caroline.heward. Let's welcome her. She's our in-house therapist here at USA Global TV and Radio. Welcome. Hello.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Dr. JACALYN.
Thank you. It's so good to see you. I got confused for a minute. I'm thinking, is this the Listening Mentor show? Is Woman's Prerogative? So it's great to have you here with us. So I just want to mention to anyone who is a loyal follower of this particular show that we are actively interested in having other women join us on our panel. It's a lot of fun. Caroline, before we get into the work that you do, could you share with our audience a little bit about what you actually take away from doing this particular show? You show up week after week, prepared, ready to go. What is it that motivates you to do A Woman's Prerogative?
Thank you, Dr. JACALYN. Well, that's a really, really fascinating question. I learn a lot through some of the research that I do for some of the shows, and I've had to do a bit of research for this one because I don't watch a lot of television, and I've actually found lots of things that I'm going to watch because I'm interested. But one of the other things is the comradeship and the interaction with the other panelists, and the fact that we've become a family. So it's like meeting up with friends, even though we're not in the same place. So it's almost like a little social as well. And it boosts my feeling of feel-goodness. And the other really amazing thing about being on this show is that I do use it for my social media. And from a professional perspective, I'm actually posting on my social media platforms, and I'm getting views and I'm getting really good stats. Certainly on my LinkedIn profile, I get stats sent to me every week. And that is actually boosting my professional profile, and people are looking at me, which will potentially give me new opportunities to look at. And I'm also being asked to write articles and make comment on various topics when people see my profile. So the big thing about being on this particular show is that it's fun, it's entertaining, it's inspirational, and I learn something from the other panelists. As well as give, I also receive tenfold. And it's a lot of it feels like it's very much a harmonious place. I always feel uplifted when I leave this show. Yes, there's a little bit of research to do for some of the shows, like this one in particular, but then I learn so much that I expand in that further education. And that's why I'm here, week in, week out, no matter what the topic, no matter what the occasion, whether it's bank holiday, I'm always here because I always gain something from it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Caroline. I'm smiling inside and out over your explanation. I love it. And today's topic, I think there's a lot of what you said that really is the foundation for these groundbreaking TV shows that feature women. And what I mean by that is when you show up again and again and again and again, people know they can count on you. They know you will be here at this time on this show, on this stage, and people look forward to hearing what it is you have to say. And I think it's the same thing with, let's say, Mary Tyler Moore. I don't know if you had that show over there, Lucille Ball or Florence Henderson or I Love Lucy. We could go on and on. But you also provide a special set of services that really are needed, not just by women, but by all. And I'd love to have you share what it is that you do as someone who helps bust people's stress.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. I help people bust their stress. How do I do that? I ask them a few questions. Usually people reach out and say, I'm struggling with my relationship, or I've got physical ache and pain, or they've got a skin allergy or a skin problem, or they have a sickness. And whatever it is, it's the symptom, it's whatever they reach out or whatever they're complaining about. And I identify the root cause. What's caused the problem in the first place? And it's using root cause therapy, which includes chakra psychology. That's how the mind and body is connected and what happens to us physically, emotionally, mentally, behaviorally when there's an imbalance. And the imbalance is the symptom, so whatever it is that you're complaining about. Now, a lot of people say, I'm not stressed, I'm okay, a little bit of stress is really good for you. And I'm not stressed anyway, I sleep really well. But then they, in the next breath, they say, oh, I'm sick of my relationship, or he's always causing me problems, or my family drives me mad, and I don't sleep, or I've got this ache and pain here and there. That's how your stress is manifesting. But you've got used to it. The people that say they constantly have a headache or a migraine, they are treating the symptom rather than the root cause. And that's where I help you bust your stress.
We're still waiting for that song. Bust your stress. Bust your stress. Okay, let's get into the topic. So I think this is really going to be interesting because you're there in the UK and I'm here in the States. And I really have no idea of what television you get there. I do television shows, I should say, because I don't watch television either. It's funny that we're both broadcasters, not watching television. So when I mentioned to you Mary Tyler Moore, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, is that something you're familiar with?
I've heard of it, but I've not watched it.
Okay. So maybe we can break the television shows into two different categories, and you might have another suggestion. I'm thinking of talk shows like what we're doing right now. When I think of talk shows, I think of Oprah. I think of Ellen, Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres. Then we also have sitcoms or, actual dramas, women who are the Bionic Woman, for example, or Superwoman. What kinds of television shows did you find in your research where women in your country maybe were featured in talk shows? Do you have someone, even though Oprah's a global figure, obviously, do you have someone like that there in the UK?
These are global that you've mentioned. So obviously we have Oprah. We see some of the other shows, other people that you've just talked about and just mentioned. But as I mentioned, I don't watch a lot of television. But what I did find is interesting things in terms of women's breakthroughs. So I do want to mention a couple now. One of the programs is Orange is the New Black. And this is about ladies in Litchfield Penitentiary. And they're shown as convicts. and it's a complex they all have complex backstories. But the main feature that came out of it is that they changed that sanitary towels, tampons and sanitary towels were made free to UK inmates in 2019. And so the show sparked some serious discussions about women's place in society, equal rights and respect. And I thought that was amazing. And I've seen this Orange is the New Black, but didn't really consider that it was something that I wanted to watch. But in doing my research, I thought, wow, that sounds really fascinating. So that tells me that the topics that would have been brought up in that show and the way that show would have been portrayed would have been really, really interesting. So that's one on my list. And another one is Reversing Roe. And this is about supporters of abortion rights and the people who oppose it. And they're discussing the landmark Supreme Court case, which is Roe versus Wade. And you will learn from the 1973 case and established women's rights to choose to have an abortion, and how abortion became such a politicized topic throughout the years. And viewers will hear from the conservative votees, workers, and the people that were working on the case. So I found that was really, really fascinating because it was a historic decision and it came out of a TV show.
Incredible. And thanks for mentioning that, by the way. I did watch, even though I don't watch television, I did watch Orange is the New Black. And one of the takeaways that I had from that was you have women from all walks of life who have something has happened in their life, and they're all brought together. And it doesn't matter what your background is or your economic or social status, you're all in the same place together. And how you feel the tension and how people gang up on one another or side with one another, lie to one another. And then ultimately people are working together to form friendships and to spend this time together the best way that they can, learning from one another.
So that's one on my list to watch.
Definitely. Another one, I think you probably get that, there's Sex in the City. Did you ever watch that?
I haven't, and yes, we've got that here too, but I haven't watched. This is really showing me up, isn't it?
No, it's okay, because these shows were on, a while ago. So Sex in the City, I think what was so interesting about that, and as a TV series, and then I think there were 2 movies that were made from it after that, and there might be some other series going on now as a derivative. But anyway, you have these 4 main characters, these 4 women who come from different backgrounds and have different issues, different desires, different dreams, and they form a sisterhood between the 4 of them. And a lot of it is based on the writing that Carrie, the main character, that she does about men and sex and relationships. And it was kind of groundbreaking to have a TV series where you're just talking about sex blatantly, like that, because it was so taboo for such a long time. And yet these women were super honest with one another and really supported each other through the good times and the bad times, in a relationship, not in a relationship.
Well, Sex in the City, it was very much because I was living at home at the time, and that wouldn't have been a series that I would have had on because I was never really at home, but that wouldn't have been appropriate to have with my mum there watching the TV as well. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why, but it was a long time ago, and it was something that I knew the core concept of what it was about, that didn't end up getting to watch it.
It's hard to watch if you're not home, that's for sure. Well, I wanted to bring up the one I mentioned in the beginning, Mary Tyler Moore. I don't remember when this show was on. It was a long time ago, and I think it was on every day. I don't know, maybe it was once a week, but it was kind of interesting, especially at that time. And Mary Tyler Moore is someone in the show that she would go on dates, but her main focus was her career. And how could she advance in her career? And, you know, for so long, that was also a taboo subject, you know, stay in your corner, stay at home cooking, stay at home doing whatever it is that you're doing. And she really, I think, brought a lot of awareness to feminism, that you can still be feminine and be in the workplace, and even in a job that was traditionally male related. And you and I have talked about feminine and masculine energy. So I think there were a lot of storylines that came out of that particular show that really helped advance women's perception of, I mean, even men's, of working in the workplace.
Absolutely. You've reminded me of another show that I used to watch when I was very young called Bewitched. And this was very much, have you heard of that particular sitcom? It
Absolutely.
was, you have. I mean, she was world famous, hopefully. And I used to wiggle my nose like she did, because it was just something that I could do. And apparently it's not easy to do. But she was very much of a time that there wasn't a lot of women actresses that did well. And those shows lasted for a long time because of the fact that her character was so powerful and so charismatic.
Yes, sorry about that. Thunder and lightning. So yeah, so no, I agreed. She said twitch your nose like this, right? By the way, that reminds me of another one, which was I Dream of Jeannie. And Jeannie wore that hot outfit, and she was living in that bottle, and she was dating Larry Hagman. I forget the name of his character, but I thought that was great. She had this cool space in that bottle. But, you know, today those kind of shows wouldn't be accepted, I don't think. So
no.
things have really evolved over time. And someone else who comes to mind is Carol Burnett. Have you ever watched her shows? I mean, they're not on now, but did you ever watch the replays? Or
No, I haven't.
No. She's an incredible comedian. And she had a show called The Carol Burnett Show, and they did all these various skits. But she really was groundbreaking in terms of women in comedy. And I believe she wrote some of the skits, and of course, obviously acted in them, probably directed them. And people were just drawn to her because it's so important to laugh, right? To be able to laugh at a situation. And she could carry off so many different skits and characters. And she's still around today. And I just really give thanks for what she did to show business, and specifically to comedy.
Well, there wasn't, when we were growing up, very many female comedians. And that definitely has changed. There were much more men that were comedians. And so these particular women that we're picking up from when we were young was quite unusual to have such groundbreaking shows that were on regular week in, week out and seasons, because it wasn't so familiar and so common. So when these people did well, they did really, really well.
Yes, they did do really well. And they're still out there now. I mean, all you do is go put in the Carol Burnett Show and just get ready to start laughing, because it's crazy. Someone else who I think was also a groundbreaker, trailblazer, Lucille Ball. And she was a housewife. She was married to her husband, who was also the star of the show, I Love Lucy show. And she wanted to really make it in show business. And from what I read, initially, when she came up with this idea of this show, that she and her husband would be the stars, it wasn't received very well, because I don't remember what his background is, but they were considered, I believe, to be, I'm using air quotes, a biracial couple. So at the time, it wasn't really well received, and they thought the show would flop. And she was very funny, also a great actress. And of course, there were supporting characters, her husband as well. They were really married in real life and in the show, Desi Arnaz, I think. So it was that kind of slapstick humor, so to speak, but also that determination, because that was back when the shows were in black and white, I think. Remember
Yes.
that black and white, and the television with those, whatever, the rabbit ears and the little knob that you could turn. Really
Aerials.
But it's women like that who, you know, she's told no. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to show you. Watch it happen.
Well, I remember Lucille Ball, and I used to always switch it on because I grew up with her, and she was just completely hilarious. And it's good to have laughter. In fact, in my research, I didn't find lots of comedies. I actually found, sort of people that actually did things, if you know what I mean, in my research. So it's quite a good balance that I found people that did things and, groundbreaking things in terms of changes in history. But, you actually lightened it up with the comedy, which is beautiful. And, it's something that I hadn't thought about when I was doing my research, looking at the comedy side of things. So, yes, it's good to laugh, because when you laugh, it moves you into a more euphoric state, and it helps you with any ailments, or if you're feeling stressed, anxiety, depression, it actually lifts that and it makes you feel different and better.
So true, and so important for each and every one of us. Something I want to talk about also is, I just mentioned the television, those black and white, the rabbit's ears, and the idea of television has changed tremendously. We're actually doing a television show right now. So even though we're on our computers, you can see our show on a television, which is incredibly cool. So I happen to have 70 some inch screen, and I'll watch the shows later just to see how it's coming across. And my question for you is, because we are talking about groundbreaking TV shows highlighting women's achievements, we're on a television show right now. Had you, when you were younger, when you were a young girl, had you ever dreamed of being on television?
I have to confess, no. And yet I have been on television before this particular show. I used to regularly feature on shows in Birmingham, which was my hometown with my family. I used to regularly feature on a show on a TV channel called Birmingham Live, and also on their local radio stations. And I also featured on some satellite channels as well, in terms of the work that I was doing, either voluntary or the work that I do now. So, but that was where I would get ready and go to a studio. And so that was quite different. Even when I did the work with the satellite television channel, I went to a studio. So this is actually very different, because I have to prepare a studio. And as you know, Dr. Jacalyn, I was absolutely fearful of the technology of creating a studio in my living room. And yet, with your considered and sensitive and absolutely incredible mentoring, I have now produced a lovely little studio in my living room with a green screen, circle lights, and making sure that the laptop works and, can do what it needs to do in terms of live streaming. And I never, ever would have believed that would have been a possibility, for sure, because I always went to studios.
I actually did not know that about you, Caroline. So that's brilliant. And, I think you could attest to this, because when we have new people coming on a regular basis, which is nice. And we have people leaving, right? So people coming, people going. And frequently I'll be asked, do I have to make any investment in any equipment? I don't know. Do you want to be a professional broadcaster, or do you want to do some half, whatever, a podcast from your kitchen? I mean, and people can pick to do things whatever way they're doing. And I shouldn't have said kitchen, because you're in a kitchen, you're going to be cooking typically. But if you're not doing a cooking show, for example, but you really embraced it and you went all in. And I know for myself, I was traveling for about 10 days. I didn't have the green screen. And when I'm back here in the studio, there's something special about it, that it's, you put on your dress, your whatever you're wearing. I put on my dress, do my hair, I'm ready. I feel like I represent a professional broadcaster. And there's something about that just makes me feel happy.
Well, it is exactly that for me. It's getting ready, to be there, not only for myself, actually giving the information and being there for everyone else. It's about showing up and delivering your best, because it's there forever.
Yes, it's out there forever. And to your point earlier, you mentioned that you had been in an in-person studio, and I had been as well. Just a quick story. We actually have a new show now called How Not to Suck at Networking. And it's the host is Ashley Owens. And I met Ashley at a television studio in New Jersey in the States. And I went in for an interview. her show, I think, was called Connect to Success at the time. And she was interviewing me, and I was like this. My lips are going to break. Oh, I couldn't stop smiling. And so at the end, I talked to the owner of the station. I said, I would have my own show. So that's how the whole thing started. It's interesting. But the point being, I had to travel there. And then the pandemic hit, and I was driving an hour and 45 minutes. And it's interesting as the studio evolved and they went on to Roku, they put up this timer, this clock. And they literally would shut you off. Like if your show's 40 minutes, that's it. Doesn't matter where you are, you were shut off because that was the space for the show. So anyway, the point being that now we can do these shows from wherever it is that they have Wi-Fi. We could even buy a small piece of green felt or a tablecloth and travel around or report from the field if we're doing that type of work. So the fact that you have the ability to work when you want, you could say, hey, I don't want to do the show at this time. And then we'd have a discussion. So that's a value as well. And I think that that helps highlight flexibility for us to achieve bringing global education.
I'm absolutely in agreement with you. The fact that I don't have to travel, especially in the evening, and then get back to my home, that causes all sorts of challenges, especially with the different changes in the English weather. In the UK is not always so good. So if it's snowing or if it's frosty or if there's leaves on the train line, then it causes a problem in traveling. And actually, when we are in our own homes, it's only about the Wi-Fi working. Yes, that is a challenge because sometimes it doesn't. But most often, you're not caught up with the British English weather, where it can be very interchangeable. And the British love talking about the weather because it's so changeable. It can be windy and rainy one day and brilliant sunshine and really steaming hot another day. And then we can have no Wi-Fi because the winds are really strong. And so it's really good to be in this space of not having to travel and at the same time being there, present regularly. Whereas if I had to travel to the US, that would cause me some problems to do this show.
Exactly. The time value of money. So how you spend your time and traveling and, what's the return on that? So we can do it right from home. Someone I want to talk about, if you're up for it, is Oprah Winfrey, because I feel like she's made such a difference in show business, but in also global education and also empowerment of women and empowerment of people who don't get a voice typically. Maybe they live in different parts of the world. What exposure have you had to Oprah? Have you watched the show in the past?
I've watched a few of them, not many, but one of the ones that comes to mind, which was very much a groundbreaking show, was the interview with our royalty, Harry and his wife. And that was particularly challenging because it was so raw and so real. And it was highlighting, certainly to people in the UK, how challenging it had been for the royal couple. And it was raw in terms of, it was surprising to the British public as to what was divulged in that particular interview. And on the other side of that, I've known people that have just literally not being known for anything. They've gone on to the Oprah Winfrey show and then become extremely famous. So Oprah Winfrey, what she does is she shines a light and she asks those difficult questions, a bit like our Piers Morgan. I don't know whether you've heard of Piers Morgan in the UK, a bit like him, where he will not be afraid to ask the questions that others don't ask because they're frightened of upsetting or creating taboo situations. But one of the things that comes to mind is the fact that she's not afraid and she will go where other people don't go, and she uncovers things from people that are raw, that are true, and she changes the dynamic of reality TV.
I completely agree with you. And she's also a movie star, by the way. She's been in a number of films and she's an excellent actress. What about shows like 60 Minutes? Do you have that over there?
I've not seen that, no.
Okay, so they're shows that are documenting what's going on in the world. So this one's 60 minutes, and then they have it broken up into different segments, and people are out in the field, so to speak, covering whatever the headline news is. And so then they do stories on it. And there was one person who was on there. Actually, there was several. I can't think. Barbara Walters and Diane Sawyer, for example. And I think that they were really trailblazers in terms of women getting into an industry that was typically male anchors for television networks. And then an evolution from that, women who were now allowed to be sportscasters and in the locker room with the men and reporting from the field. I mean, there's a lot of women who have done incredible things. And so as we're coming to the last part of our show, I want to talk about women who are out there today, wherever they are in their world, in their life, and they want to get involved in television. What would you share with them about what mindset, what dedication, what aspects of commitment are involved with being a professional television show host?
That's a really cool question. And what I would share is preparation, preparation, preparation. And the reason that I'm saying that is that if your tech isn't prepared, if you're not prepared in terms of your physical with your technology and also yourself physically, even if you're having a bad hair day, to actually make it a good hair day, these are things that you need to focus on to make sure that you look the part. I always consider when I'm coming onto a show and I'm preparing, it's a bit like a landlady in a bar. When whatever's going on in her world, when she goes out to the front of the bar and she's there to serve and she's the landlady, she has to wear a smile, and whatever woes that she has in her life, she has to put on her best smile and be there for everyone and deliver a service that's of the best that she can give, that the customers require. I would also say that certainly for some of the shows, that it's important to do your research. It's important to have some insights on what the subject matter is about. And if you're interviewing someone, to have some understanding about that person, even if you've gone through something as simple as their LinkedIn profile or their blog or their website, to understand what their achievements are. Because when you're interviewing someone, it's good to know a little bit about the person so that you can interview them well. And also it's good to have some insights in terms of what's trending, what people are interested in, what people are searching for in terms of the subjects, the topics, because there are lots of things that are going on in our world that people want to know more about, or if it might be sickness, ailments, or trending topics such as what's going on globally, economically, politically. Some people are interested to know, so they're searching for information. And so when you show up not just for you, but for everyone else who's going to be watching your content, because you are there making a difference, and it is all about making a difference and leaving a legacy. And that's how I show up. I want to leave a legacy so people remember me for the good stuff rather than the not so good stuff.
Once again, bravo. I'm in complete agreement with you, especially about the legacy piece. That's how I feel as well. We're creating a legacy here. And I think another one I would add is a sense of curiosity. And what I mean by that is, and at the end of every Friday, it's the same thing. We always close out the week. Actually, now we have shows on Saturday and Sunday, but I close out the week with coexistence and sustainability with Pet Psychic Amina. And I think about all the things I've learned, because I try to watch as many shows as I can, or I'm producing them. And I can't believe how much I've learned about the world that I literally had no idea about. And that makes me even more curious to learn even more. So I think when someone has a sense of curiosity and they're interviewing someone, or maybe they're providing education like you do on Talking Heads as well, that there's just something about wanting to give more, wanting to know more, wanting to learn more. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I am naturally curious. I'm a natural questioner and always have been. Ever since I was a child, I would question all sorts of things. And to question makes you much more powerful and much more interesting, because people are interested that you are interested. So you become an interesting person when you question. And because you question, you learn more and you become more. You actually grow through the wisdom by questioning. So yes, I learned so much from the other panelists, from you, Dr. Jacalyn, our wonderful host and owner of the channel and host extraordinaire. I learned from the other panelists, and I also learned from myself, from my own research. And it's always fun, because when you're learning, you're growing and you're evolving. And that, to me, is amazing.
It certainly is. And I'm so glad that we're continuing this journey. I want to mention something else, because tomorrow we'll be doing the Listening Mentor Show. And I think in addition to having that sense of curiosity, it's important to be a good listener. Because if you're not listening, and you can watch television shows like this, I forget what it is on Sunday morning, it's some kind of political show, and they're like screaming at one another. I'm like, whoa, especially certain things like topics like politics, people start screaming and yelling, but they're not, I feel, able to really learn from one another because they won't stop talking. So what role do you think listening at an elevated level has in terms of being a global broadcaster?
Well, that's just the all $1,000,000 question. When you listen, you understand what to ask and how to broach the next question. And so if you are interviewing someone and they give you some information, you can actually be a really good interviewer by hearing what they're saying, actively listening, and then asking questions from what they've just said. And when they share like that, then it's a back and forth. It's much, much easier. It's not a monologue then. It's much more of an interactive, conversational piece. And you never know where it's going to go. And that's where our show usually goes, that we do twice a month, called The Listening Mentor. I never quite know where it's going to go. I just have the topic. And I very rarely do any research, because I'm just usually grilled for the 40 minutes. And it's a really nice show, because it is a conversation. And when you're listening, when you're really listening to the answers, this is where it becomes much more engaging and it's much more uplifting. I always feel wow when somebody takes the time to listen and ask questions about what I might have shared. And at the same time, I know that it's not just the two of us together, it's everyone else hearing the same answers for what they need to.
Absolutely. And you are an excellent listener. And for anyone out there who feels they're not being heard, Caroline is here to help. She is here to listen. She's here to help you bust your stress. We're going to put up your contact information. But Caroline, I would love, as we close out, we're talking today about groundbreaking TV shows highlighting women's achievements. You are an advocate for peace. You're an advocate for empowering women. What can you share for all the women out there who feel maybe somewhat lost or alone, or there's no one to help and support them?
What I can share is that whether you're a man or a woman, there are times that you might feel alone. You might feel like the world is on top of you and you can't get through the day, or things are challenging and you just can't see through the other side of the tunnel. And that is to stop, to breathe, and to go inwards rather than looking outwards especially with our current troubled times and our turbulent times, to go inwards. Because if you do switch on the news and if you are watching economic and political programs, it can be very challenging and it can feel like the world's imploding. But when you go inwards, when you actually breathe and close your eyes and go inwards, it moves you to a place of feeling calmer. If you take a breath and breathe right the way down into your body, into the lower belly, that's your diaphragm, and do a yogic breath, it's breathing down into the belly, the calmness will be unbelievably silencing in the mind, and you will be able to feel calmer and you will get a better night's sleep. We all feel overwhelmed at times. My invitation is to take a breath, take another breath, and take a third breath, and watch the thoughts change and melt so that you feel calmer and more peaceful within, because everything is within you.
Thank you so much. We do have a thumbs up from Shrawan Mishra. I hope I said that right. And Shrawan's with us for many programs. So thank you. We appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Caroline, please let our audience know about your talking heads areas of expertise. What will you be sharing in the future? What have you already shared? And how can people find your content?
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Well, you can find me at nomorestress@live.co.uk, so reach out on email, or you can call me on +44 if you're international, if you're local, 07523 120 189. Talking Heads is my show where I share my expertise, and I cover all manner of subjects. And I've covered things like anger management, relationship issues, libido issues, how to recognize and deal with anxiety, depression, how to recognize and deal with physical, emotional, mental stress. And it's filled with tips and techniques and understandings, because when you are in awareness of your stress or how things manifest in your body, physically, emotionally, mentally, when there is an imbalance and how things are showing up in your relationships, in your family situations, this is when you're in awareness that you're 90% to the point of solving it. Most of us can't solve something that we're unaware of. And so I look at educating you so that you become aware of all the different angles and triggers that can create the different imbalances of stress, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or behavioral. I've covered things like ADHD, sexting, which was a very interesting topic to cover, things like libido issues, intimacy in relationships, male energy, female energy, male and female communication, you name it, and I've covered it. Just look for Talking Heads and my name on USA Global TV, and you will find all my shows there.
Fabulous. We're actually going to show the audience how they can find this. So we're going to go over to YouTube, go to youtube.com and put in USA Global TV and Radio. Can you see this, Caroline?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So you're going to go over across here and you're going to look for playlist. By the way, something I'd like to add as I just look down here a little bit further, all of our shows are now turned into podcasts. So when you see this, for example, the United Kingdom, this is the video broadcast. When you see this, every podcast is the same graphic. It's our logo. So Protecting Canada's Coastal Giants, the fight to save the Northern right whale, that is a podcast that also was a live broadcast. So you go to playlists, and then here are all of the playlists, and they're typically organized in terms of which show was on the most recent. So this show was just on, that's why I mentioned that. So you'll go forward and you look for Talking Heads, and you did that what, 2 weeks ago?
Last week.
Oh, here we are. So you're right here. So this is Talking Heads with expert presenter Caroline Heward 2024. And then you go here and you've done 3 so far this year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is how you find it. It's how you find, oh, you don't need to hear it now. That's how you can find all of Caroline's episodes, and all of our shows are organized in playlists. And you can go to our website, usaglobaltv.com, and you can go to shows, watch now. Go to each show and watch now, and the playlist is there. So, Caroline, close us out for today before we go over to our sponsors.
Thank you for joining us. It's been absolutely amazing. I hope that you've enjoyed the show, and I look forward to seeing you next week at the same time. Oh, actually, it'll be 7 o'clock, slightly later time, British summertime, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence, building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the secrets of visual impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you.